Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome in to another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog and the Underdog Fantasy family. D. Mendy here, back with Marty Party, the Doc, and two special guests, as Little Cheesecake unfortunately could not make the show tonight. But don't worry, these two guests are better than 100 cheesecakes. So it is going to be a fun ride. First, of course, Marty Party. Always handsome, always glowing, always ready for some baseball talk. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. I'm so excited for our guest today. I'm excited for the continuing of the World Baseball Classic. Dude, we're almost here. 2 more weeks. Let's go.
This is the home stretch. We've been doing a lot of off-season shows. We're finally can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I know Doc is ready because he has a whole bunch of season-long bets that he's ready to start trying to cash. Aren't you, Doc?
October, I'm either going to be a really rich man or a really poor guy.
That is very true. But you've been talking up some of your bets with one of our guests here who is behind all your picks. So that has to feel good. And I will introduce him first. This is a man that many are familiar with. This is a man, we welcome in a man that I just have to show you a graph with a little bar moving, and you know exactly who I'm talking about. He's an MLB and NFL writer for The Athletic. He hosts Cork Stats on the Mayo Media Network. He's also got tons of just great tweets, great algorithm stuff he puts out there. There is only one big Johnny stud out in the world, and it is my friend John Legeza. How's it going, man?
Yo, what's up, guys? Big cheesecake in the house. Let me tell you, first and foremost, gosh, I was so extremely proud of you boys to see the Triple Play family bring home a FSWA nomination. The expansion you guys are doing is excellent. Anything you guys have been attached to has been very good. So I love, listen, I'm a huge fan first, and now I'm here, and let's make some noise and scream about baseball, while we can for 2 weeks.
Yes. You're one of the guys I feel like we've had on. I mean, it's been at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
we can never get enough of you, man.
Oh, I can't get enough of you. I love it here, man. I fit right in. It's crazy here. I fit right in.
we love you, man. We're so glad to have you on here. Doc always looks like what are you, Doc?
He's ready to make money. That's a money-making face. I know that face.
Doc always looks like he's on Molly.
I know
is it the vein popping in the middle?
Is that how you spell the drug, Molly? Is that the appropriate spelling for the drug? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know
if
I should take that as
Molly.
It
I don't know
is.
if that's a compliment or a dig.
I don't know, Doc. I mean, that means you're having a good time, right?
I guess.
Our other guest here, he's making his way in the fantasy baseball space, and somebody that you guys will definitely be hearing about a lot more during this coming season. We welcome in a man who I would say is a winner in a lot of ways, but also needs to pick a new team because he is a 3-time fantasy baseball league winner. He also is a husband, and he's a dog dad, 2 awesome things. He also has won multiple charity raffles for Potapalooza, including winning the raffle to get a guest appearance on this podcast. But a fan of the Cincinnati Reds is where I kind of stop your winning right there. But besides that, awesome dude, knows his fantasy baseball, been doing home leagues for a long time, and very excited to welcome in our friend here, Brad Koppel, on the show. What's up, Brad?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Love the show. Been listening to it, picked it up earlier in the off season. So been listening a few months now. Great content. Keep it up. Like Mendy said, won the Potapalooza raffle to get on here and was super stoked that it's one I listened to. So great prize to have. Thanks for having me.
Love having you here. Love having 2 awesome guests here. And also everybody in the chat hanging out. Uncle Ted Talks popping in. What's going on, Jasper? Good to see you. And Toby's welcome is ready for some Kyle Bradish talk tonight. That may be one of the hottest names in the going on right now in the fantasy baseball world here. And of course, it welcomes in Uncle Ted here. So we are all here to finish out our starting pitcher preview. It is a journey to get through the starting pitchers. There's so many good ones. There's traps, there's sleepers, there's breakouts. So we try to condense as many as we can into 3 episodes. We conclude that tonight with our starting pitchers part 3. These are looking at guys going after SP 100 on the NFBC ADP over the last 2 weeks, which is approximately 130 drafts, just to give you a more recent sample size of where these pitchers are going. So we'll be throwing to you guys probably 15 plus names tonight, maybe even more, depending on how we're doing. So if you have questions about certain ones, whether we bring them up or we don't, just throw them in the chat. We're happy to answer them. And we got the guys to do the heavy legwork tonight. So let's kick it off. Let's go to my guy, Big Johnny Stud. There's a list we put in the private chat, and there's also obviously the list you can go off the NFBC if there's a name.
Can you repost it for me too? Because I had to leave, remember?
That's right. No, Marty Party. I'm going to give credit to Marty Party because he did the legwork for that.
That's some list, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
He the real MVP for that. So, John, you could get anybody from this list, or if there's somebody that's not on this list you want to go to, who do you want to bring up first in this basically free discussion? Because these guys are almost free in drafts.
What is going on? I lost you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I just got you. That's funny. I'm hardwired in, so maybe I don't hope it was on my end. Okay, I got you now. Can you start again?
I would say out of this list or out of any of the NFBC, who's the guy you got to kick this party off with? Who's the first to the party? Who's the one that you got to have in your draft?
Let's do it. You already mentioned it, so let's start with the wide awake sleepers, right? Because that is a thing. People are getting sharper and sharper. Hopefully, sharper people are following my work. I'm breaking this stuff down from Christmas, right? So sometimes names that might have been sleepers a couple years ago, people have kind of had, the tips of their tongue. So it's my dude, Kyle Horse Bradish on the Orioles. First things first, we have to be careful with these team narratives, right? It's so easy. I mean, I'm a Yankee fan, right? Growing up, the Orioles, terrible. So it's very easy. They're terrible. They're terrible. Now they changed pitching coaches, okay? They have a Houston bloodline in there. And they've actually been very good developing young pitchers, right? In the past couple of years, we've seen some quality stuff. Plus, they've changed the ballpark to fit the pitchers. Enter Kyle Bradish. He has just been excellent, man. And really the things I like to see maybe more than anything are, people love to just quote pitch mix. But it's going to be a positive pitch mix, right? Just because we mix it doesn't mean it's better. One of the funnier things I think we're noticing now is this revelation is, let's throw our best pitches more. As if this was, to me, it's funny. We laugh, right? The galaxy brain exploding,
Yeah.
But it's not something that was being done all the time. Oftentimes that was looked down upon. You were pitching backwards, and it means you didn't have a fastball that was good enough to play in the bigs. But that's not the case. If you have a slider like Bradish does, which is, absolutely filthy, you don't need to throw a fastball 55% of the time. So slider, everybody, if you're unfamiliar with my work, I like to use a triple slash. I brought this up at the Athletic, and it's kind of caught on. Usage, X slug, whiff rate. Makes sense? How often do you throw it? How hard does it get hit? How many whiffs does it generate the slider off the page? 30% use to a 309 X slug and a 33% whiff rate. Yeah, we want to throw that more. He knew he was having some trouble with the steepness on the fastball. They began incorporating a sinker, a power sinker for Bradish also, which, people always worry, sinker's like not any good. If your fastball is getting obliterated, then yes, you can throw a sinker if it's going to limit that contact to allow you to work down in the zone, because that was the problem. The fastball, if you have a fastball that's too steep, and you throw it down in the zone, right, you create a parallel angle to go out, an opposing angle to go into the stands. So that's why you want fastballs flat and up, because you can't meet them at an angle that puts them out of the yard. So I like all the changes we've seen from Bradish. Then he showed up in the spring. He's got a few extra miles an hour tacked onto there. And as a nefarious cheapskate, he's insanely cheap right now. So I love it. Wheels up for Bradish, man. You can get him as he could be your SP 9, 10 maybe on NFBC, where you don't even start him in a more shallow league. And I think that's what you want, right? Because if he comes out and starts shoving, the fair price, the waiver price can be off the chain. You want to get in there first.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Bradish, it's one of those things now with analytics. You said throw the best pitch more often. He had, I think, 8 strikeouts in 4 innings the other day. He really looked like the real deal. And somebody that with the increased velocity and just everything else around him looks like he could really be an awesome guy this year. In the ground ball rate last year, acceptable 46%. Fly ball rate above major league average, nearly 26% as well. The stuff is there. And I was listening to Rates and Barrels the other day, and I think even players adapting, getting rid of just the fastball approach and going, I think it was sinker, sweeper, and cutter, I think, were the 3 pitches that they were talking about that a lot of teams are developing in the minor leagues, for them to throw those 3 pitch mix. And that's kind of like the new age of way they want pitchers to develop. So if Kyle Bradish gets rid of throwing the 4-seamer and goes heavier sinker to go with that awesome slider, big changes could be coming in a positive way for him. So I think he's the poster boy for this section, as it's become now, as it seems like his name's being brought up everywhere, and rightfully so. Someone you should be very excited about. Marty Party, we were talking about somebody before the show started, and I want you to go ahead and crack the beer open and be able to talk about this guy first. And then I know John wants to hop in and clean up the rest that you might not finish with him. So go ahead and talk about this man.
All right, perfect. Josiah Gray, Washington Nationals, the 108th pitcher off the board, going about 432 in average draft position. 25 years old. He was the guy that they traded, that the Dodgers traded to get Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. So big prospect pedigree. I'm getting him like around like the 25th round. He's my 8th starting pitcher in the triple players ball. So, so let's just start with the bad. Last year was brutal for him. You know, first full year up in the majors, he gave up the most walks in the NL. He gave up the most home runs in all of baseball. So two big bugaboos there. But silver lining, 4.25 xERA compared to his 5.6 ERA. He had a 24.7 K percentage, which is slightly above average. So the K percentage is a little bit higher. It's pretty solid xERA. And like, what was wrong with him? Like, just from like his mechanics were all over the place. He had an inconsistent windup. He was tipping his pitches. And even with all of that, like his stuff, his location, his pitch plus, we're all just barely slightly below average. So he's finally had a full year to work on it. He's worked on his mechanics all off season, focusing on the repeatability of his windup. So his command should be more improved. His pitch mix is something he focused on, and he wants to attack hitters more effectively. So he's still working on the art of pitching. Yeah, so just what I see, like he's projected to pitch at least 150 innings, 160 strikeouts. Their improved defense behind him. The Nationals were the second worst defense in all of baseball last year, which led to his little bit bloated ERA. So where he's going in drafts, he's completely free. And you know you love when you bring up a guy, and Johnny hits you with some amazing stats to make you feel even better about it. So hey. All right, let's see. Take the floor, buddy.
All right. We do it quick. This had to do with it's a thirst for the whys. A lot of people give you the whats, can read you the stats from Fangraphs. I like to figure out why. Like when you say what makes a fastball bad, a lot of it has to do with shape. Again, I mentioned steepness. I don't have to get too far into the weeds. The idea was I just ran diagnostics on the fastball leaderboard as the entire league. So there were only 9 pitchers in all of baseball that had a fastball with a, remember, sub 13-inch vertical movement. You want vertical movement as low as possible. That's the idea of a rising fastball, right? None of these fastballs rise. The gravity is a thing. They don't sink as much as the field. And hitters with a lifetime of experience, you have expectations of sink. That's just what the world is, right? If you throw a ball up in the air, you have an idea of how long it would take to come down. If the ball suddenly took a different amount of time, it throws off your timing. That's the idea of using shape in accordance with location. So keep that compartmentalized. So with a sub 13-inch vertical movement and more than 10 inches of horizontal movement, run, the thing that we want. More run, the better. More tail, the better, generally. So 9 pitchers. Okay, stop me when you figure out what these guys have in common. Garrett Cole, Jacob deGrom, Justin Verlander, Shane McClanahan, Hunter Green, Michael Kopech, Kevin Gausman, and Josiah Gray. I mean, so there's something there for me. Sometimes like the list is the list. Like it's not right. Causation and correlation are not always the same, but sometimes when the list gives you 9 of the best pitchers walking the face of the earth and there's one other guy, maybe his fastball is not that bad. Maybe it's location. The other thing that I'm worried about, because I don't necessarily disagree with Marty, I think there's a lot there. I also think the secondaries don't get talked about enough. The slider and the curve both have a 32% whiff rate. These are very good pitches. The problem is the fastball, which we mentioned, but maybe for me, more importantly, the reason why I'm not really drafting Josiah Gray is the environment. Now that we've had the universal inception of the humidor, I've been looking at ballparks just in terms of this last year, because we don't know exactly how it changed. So I'm not trying to model in data before we change the constant. So here, just check it out. This is Washington for right-handed hitters. This is last year, Washington, whatever ballpark. I can't keep up with these corporate names. Washington Field, whatever. It's so stupid. It really is so stupid. That stuff drives me nuts, man. So Washington, home run to fly ball rate. Again, we don't want to just use totals because it depends who is hitting there. So right. Washington was number 2 in home run to fly ball rate from right-handers, 20.7%. 20.7% of all home runs off the bat of righties in Washington went in the seats. This is freaking bananas because he's a fly ball pitcher. He does have the shape to work up in the zone. He hasn't figured it out yet. So this is when we get into like, is he going to do it? I don't know if he's going to do it. I think he has the tools to do it. The problem with Washington is if you fail, you're going to be wholly punished. So home run to fly ball, and it goes across the board. I think home run. So yeah, home run to barrel, same thing at the top of the board. Number 3. So that number is actually 55.5%. And you'd say, okay, 55% of barrels going out kind of makes sense, right? No, not the case. No, not at all. There's only 6 parks where it was over 50%. You know, and in fact, check this out. There are 5 parks at 40% or less. Oakland, San Fran, KC, Baltimore, and Detroit. Meaning only a third of the barrels go out in certain parks. More than half go out in others. If you're going to get barreled up in Washington, you're going to get punished. If you're going to get barreled up in Colorado, Cincinnati, Seattle from righties, you're going to get punished. So that's what we might worry. I didn't mean to poke up against you, Marty, because I am a Josiah Gray guy. I think everything you said is right on the nose. My problem is he needs a lot of things going for him to take advantage of the full pack, right? He has to overcome a slight, it's not a drop in velocity, but normally guys that work up in the zone are 96 plus. He's more like 95, you know, so he needs to overcome a touch of velocity and location and ballpark. So, I mean, the price is there. And I think on the road where his ERA was probably 2 runs lower than it was at home, right? It had to, I think it had to be. Yeah. Home 6.12, away 4.11. So right on the nose, 2 runs per 9 more. You know what I mean? Big difference. So just be careful with Washington, guys.
You know, last thing I'll quickly say about that, and this was on the Fantasy Baseball beat. The beat writer for the Nationals said that the Washington Nationals have embraced analytics in their pitching staff more than ever. So they're looking for, you know,
I'm for hire. Okay, I'm for hire. Check me out on Twitter. What Nationals? I think I'm going to add 3 wins to that team if they hired me. You know.
I mentioned Toby brought up a couple names, but one of the names that is someone I've actually grabbed a decent amount of is Ken Waldichuk. Is he a guy, and anybody can jump in on this, is he a guy that you guys are trying to find yourself targeting here? I mean, there's Kyle Muller that goes right around where Ken Waldichuk goes. There's Fujinami from Japan that's also with the team. Like, there's innings to be had for this Oakland A's starting rotation. Their ace right now is Paul Blackburn. So if you're decent, you'll pitch for Oakland. How are you feeling about Ken Waldichuk? And again, I mean, just to kind of lay it out, if anybody wants to hop in, this is a guy that maybe doesn't have the best velocity, but he's always been very crafty with how he delivers the ball. He uses a lot of deception with how he pitches. And I've always really liked that about him. Remember, he's with the Yankees before in the Frankie Montas trade. So he's someone he was one of my favorite minor league pitchers, had awesome strikeout numbers in AA. And I think he's my favorite upside pick for this Oakland A's rotation. I think could bring the most return for where you're drafting him. I like him more than Kyle Muller. I like him more than Fujinami. Obviously, there's Paul Blackburn there. They have
James Kaprelian.
They also have one of the guys I like, JP Sears,
I like
who
Sears
for 4 innings will give you, okay numbers, like 4 innings, 2 earned runs, 3 Ks, stuff like that. I think Waldichuk's the highest upside player of the bunch. Anybody have anything else?
I mean, his stuff's nasty. I mean, it grades out well. His command's lackluster at best, but I mean, where you're getting them in that ballpark, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I think you got it too. He's probably the best case for strikeouts in Oakland.
Yeah,
you're gonna have a tough go in Oakland, right? Because you're not really gonna get any wins the ballpark with there is going to protect it big time because anything you can get popped up is an automatic out. There's so much space. There's so much space out there. But I think Waldichuk, I think the arrow is definitely pointing up for him. You know, the fastball grades out pretty well. It's not too steep, but he has a good amount of run on it, and he pairs it with two really good secondaries, right? The sweeper and the changeup have 30% whiff rates on them, which we're really looking at. He struggled a little bit with the changeup command. But again, he's a very young man. You know what I mean? And I hate to bash my Yankees as much as I love them. They don't do a great job developing young pitchers. It's just not a thing. It's not a thing the Yankees have really done. The Yankees have more gotten minor leaguers that other people want, and they just kind of ship them off. We don't ever get to see them in New York. Because I personally think it's because the Yankees are afraid if you see their damaged goods, you won't want them.
I think it's so crazy they don't have like one of the best pitching development teams there are with all the money they have and the resources.
Are they the worst?
It's insane.
Remember when Sonny? Imagine it, man. I wish.
They just
had
traded
Lance Lynn or Sonny Gray. Man, wouldn't that be awesome if the Yankees had Lance Lynn? Lance Lynn and Sonny Gray were both established. They left here.
They just traded away. They just traded away Hayden Wesneski and
You're
Jordan
gonna make me do
Montgomery.
that? Okay, you want to? Oh, okay. Since we're quoting my tweets, yeah, that was another one. In the last 7 months, the Yankees have traded away Hayden Wesneski and Jordan Montgomery. And they have not even impacted the opening day roster. Think about that. Jordan Montgomery feels like a lock for 180 quality innings. He's good. He's not great, but he's gonna get it done, right? He's cerebral. He's got good control. He goes deep in the games. Fantastic. Wesneski might be the other most wide awake sleeper there is on this board this year, right? It's almost like the guys. It almost feels corny to mention them as sleepers, right? A little bit.
It's funny because they traded Jordan Montgomery, and I feel like at this point he's started more games for the Cardinals than Harrison Bader has played games for the Yankees.
And
I might have to look that up, but
that's hilarious, actually.
Yeah,
it sounds like something that's probably true.
I thought they were trying to. Yeah. I thought the Yankees were trying to telegraph that Judge was going to walk, and Bader was going to play center. Not that he's a third of the ball player Aaron Judge is, but. Yeah, I don't know. Yankees are terrible. They really are because they had Sears, Waldichuk. Oh, yeah, you could build a full rotation from the Yankee parts they've jettisoned. They got nothing for it.
And somehow they managed to get rid of Sonny Gray, send him to Great American Ballpark behind me, and actually have Gray improve.
He wouldn't stay if they paid him because they wouldn't let him throw the slider. And it's like, see, so they're more to what you're saying. They believe in analytics, but I don't believe they believe in the malleability of analytics. They believe the computer program tells you X and you must jam the peg in the hole. That's not necessarily how these things work, right? These are people, these are humans. We have error bars and stuff like that. The Yankees are trying to force a cutter down everyone's throat. Now, to that point, and maybe we'll get to a couple of these guys, if you hear the Yankees have a pitcher that they're making throw a new cutter, Clarke Schmidt, those are guys you want to get with. Because the guys, that is the one thing that the Yankees have succeeded with. The guys that adapt to their very preformed plan, right? So I disagree with the fact that the Yankees predetermined a plan. I don't apologize for them. But when a player falls in line with that, then they get huge production of them. So I expect tremendous year from Clarke Schmidt. I think he's going to be tremendous for the Yankees.
It's another great target in this range here.
Yeah.
Brad, we haven't heard from you yet. I would love to hear if there's a name on your list that you're looking in this range.
Sure, thanks. So before I get into the name, I kind of have to explain my logic at this portion of a draft or an auction because it's weird to say, but I'm not necessarily taking who I think is going to be the best guy at this point. So early in the draft, take your guy, go up and get him. And when you're deciding between two guys, take the one who's going to have a better year in your mind. But at this point of the draft, I actually value roster flexibility even more. So I want someone that I can figure out pretty quickly if he's got it going this year, or if not, I'm going to cut him. Drop him, then either use fab dollars or use a waiver claim to go ahead and get a starter who's had 1 or 2 good outings in April, or a reliever that surprisingly picked up a save and try to get ahead of the rest of the league and picking up those guys. So, or looking at picking up someone who's getting an opportunity from an early inning. Like if you look at 2022 Tyler Anderson, he wasn't a sleeper at this time last year. So he was the 7th, maybe 8th pitcher on the Dodgers depth chart. So what ended up happening, though, is there were a couple injuries. It looked like Anderson was going to get a couple starts. So I went ahead, picked him up, plugged him into my lineup. I figured, hey, worst case, it's a Dodger. Even if he only goes 5 innings and gives up 5 runs, he still has a 50-50 shot at the win. And I ended up with a pseudo ace the whole year having that. Now, with that said, I'm not going to try to draft someone at this stage of the draft who's 2 injuries away from playing, because he's going to be sitting on my bench, and then I'm not going to have a decision whether or not he's the right guy. So I'm then having to decide to drop him without that information. So I want people who have jobs here. So depending on my roster construction earlier, I usually go one of 2 ways. So if some of the starting pitchers I drafted earlier are going to miss time, so last year, my boy Luis Castillo, who's now on the Mariners, he was going to be out for about 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So I needed to have people who I could plug in. If I have Carlos Rodon already on my roster, I have holes in my starting lineup, then I'm looking for someone who can contribute in week 1. If I don't need to plug someone in my roster and I know they're sitting on my bench, I'm willing to chase upside more. But again, I don't want someone sitting in the minors or sitting in middle relief where I'm not going to be able to make an informed decision a couple weeks in. So I want someone who's going to be on the back end of a rotation or mid-rotation and getting the starts. And my concern with Waldichuk is really, even if he performs well, how bad are the A's going to be? I'm not going to be looking for mediocre pitchers there or mediocre pitchers on my Reds. Instead, I'm going to be looking for guys on the Astros, on the Yankees, ones who are in the rotation, having jobs, and going to get some wins. So if I'm looking for someone who's just going to get innings and I have to play day 1 because I have Rodon sitting on my bench, I'm looking for a Domingo Germán on the Yankees, someone who I know is going to get starts. He's going to have an offense behind him that can knock in some runs and give him a chance to get a win, even if he doesn't perform. And depending on the injuries, if Ian Anderson breaks camp and is in the starting rotation on the Braves are still loaded as a team. I'd take a flyer on him, have him sit on my bench, not start him day 1. If he rediscovers the magic from a few postseasons ago, then all of a sudden I have a potential stud like Tyler Anderson last year. If I don't, then I cut Ian Anderson, and it's no harm, no foul, and I pick up someone who had 2 good starts in April.
So basically kind of a synopsis of what you're saying is take kind of guys at the back end of rotations or kind of on the cusp of a rotation spot on good teams, because they'll be able to accumulate.
So last year, and they've moved up in the draft this year, but I had Jose Urquidy. He was going to be on the Astros. He was towards the back end of the rotation, but the Astros are going to win games. Did he have a great year? No, but he picked up some wins for me. Tyler Anderson, again, not day 1 of the draft where he was last year, but if you can find someone like that who's at the back end of a rotation that's going to get wins, all of a sudden, if you have him take a step forward, like we're hoping the Waldichuk will do, he's going to be winning 15 games rather than a Waldichuk who might take a step forward and win 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one really good thing on Germán. There's a good lesson for everyone out there. Beyond just some little player analysis, there's some good, like, you're going to be applying this and go, oh, okay. So one of the things I've heard in regards to Germán is whatever. The output we saw is not sustainable. I tend to think he's pretty good, right? Last year, 3.61 ERA, 1.16 WHIP, 7.13 OPS, all pretty average. He doesn't really walk guys, which is cool. He gets some chases. He's okay in the zone. You know what I mean? It's like he's up and down. He's okay. The thing I've heard that's been bothering me that I think we see, and again, I spend a lot of my time, playing against people much smarter than me. So I have to try and find edge where I can. And one of the pieces of analysis I've heard against Germán is the fly ball rate, right? So this really high fly ball rate, in the 40s, at least always, right? It's always in the 40s. And that is why you see his home run to fly ball rate being regressed, by everybody. I don't mean to blame, whatever, Fangraphs, everybody, whoever it is. And you're seeing that reflected in the home run per 9, which again directly affects the ERA. Okay, so just to give an idea of how these projections kind of work, right? A lot of regression mathematics, which again, in general, are going to work more often than not. But we're not casting a wide net. We're talking about one single person. So the thing here's the lesson that really matters. When you look at Fangraphs, GB plus LD plus FB equals 100, meaning ground ball, line drive, fly ball, they equal 100. Part of that puzzle, the formula that's missing, are the infield flies. Those are calculated separately, but they're a part of fly balls. So when you have a player like Domingo Germán, who also pitches backwards, which I really like, he throws that filthy curve like all the time, right? He leads with the curve, which you gotta like. He's got a good fastball. Again, not great speed, but like Josiah Gray, 14 times 10 vertical horizontal. It's a good pitch. He could work up in the zone. He forces a ton of pop-ups. I mean, he forces a ton of pop-ups because Domingo Germán works down so often that when he works up, it's like relatively higher even than normal. So be careful looking at 42% fly ball and saying tons of home runs. He's like a league leader in infield flies. You know what I'm saying? And it's because of the way that he pitches, right? So the Yankees, now that isn't one of the things the Yankees have been very good with. You see it in Garrett Cole working up in his zone, forcing pop-ups rather than home runs. Domingo Germán, 19% of those 42 were pop-ups. Those have like a zero batting. Those have a zero XBA, right? So if you were to reverse engineer that and you were to say, well, I believe the fastball shape and the attack plan make the infield fly rate sustainable, then you'd have to turn the dials down on all the regressions that are going on, regressionary tactics, right? So if you think, wait, no, I'm watching this. No, because his misses are out of the zone up, hopefully at least, or the majority of his is. The idea being, well, even when he misses, there are home runs, the misses are balls. So you shouldn't regress the home run and the fly ball stuff the way that it's being. So it's just give you an idea of where there's more edge. It's weird. Like in this age of projections, whether or not you use them stringently, which I don't, I use them. I more use them to know how to counteract people using them too strictly, right? Because whether or not you believe in them, you have to understand a segment of the population really uses these things. They plug them into computers, and that's where they get the answer from. So we need to find out, me meaning like the mouth breathers out there, need to find out where can we differentiate in a logical and validated way, right? And I think that's one of those ways. That fastball shape, again, not something you find in Fangraphs, because that's what we're getting a lot of. K-minus walk is a skill, right? That's not really, that's still an output, as much as we hate to admit it, right? So just give people, I know it's like 17 lessons, but I think that stuff really matters. Like when that hit me, I went, wait a minute, what? A third of the fly balls are infield flies. You know what I mean? Then like it just takes a little more nuance. I think as I get older, I'm starting to learn. I think the regression, like I said, wide brush it works, broad brush it works. Fine tooth, no, not as much. So don't be afraid to buck the system. Is what I mean.
It's a good lesson. I think if you kind of ride how the system is, or you go with what everybody's used to, or you're looking, we were talking before about everybody looking at projection systems and just how much you can find edges if you don't just go with the grain, and try to find more information, dig into things that you're learning new things. That's how you're going to win in fantasy baseball.
Yeah,
I think more than any other thing. So
a T-shirt with John against the machine, and a big picture. Yeah, it'd be perfect.
It's so funny. I don't really see myself as that. I more try and fit. I want to feel like I'm not saying I'm following along, but like I understand as good as I am at player analysis. There are people who are much better at putting the roto puzzle together. So at the same time, I'm trying to learn from people better than me. Yeah. But you also can't just accept things that you don't think are right. And I think we get a lot of that. People you hear it. We hear it from very smart people. I don't know, but the projections say. What does that mean? What the hell does that even mean? I'm not sure what that means. What does that mean? I'm not sure what that means. Like a computer program. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. You got to do your own work, right? It's okay to incorporate it, but you got to do your own work because that kills me. The projection said. I
thought this was funny because, what was it, 2 weeks ago, we had the Prince Fielder incident come up on this show. And Ford says, I was about to do some pitcher stuff in an article where K-Rod, when he was a Met, punched his father-in-law in the stadium. Did you guys ever heard of that?
I think I remember that. I'm from
Yeah.
What?
I think I remember that.
Can we just keep having these random nuggets dropped in here?
We didn't realize that Prince Fielder and Adolis Garcia, or as Vicio Garcia, or Vicio Garcia slept with Prince Fielder's wife.
Oh, no way!
Yes, he didn't know that either.
Yeah, it was like in 2012, the Tigers were making their big push, and we called up Avisal Garcia.
Someone else is making a big push.
Yeah, hey-o.
Hi-oh.
But yeah, that's why Fielder got, he wanted to get traded, and he got sent to Texas the next year.
No, okay.
It was wild, right?
I usually stay with on the field stuff, but that was pretty cool.
That just reminded me of that. His name was brought up earlier. I just thought we'd go back to it. Ian Anderson, and he was optioned.
He was optioned, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I remember reading something. They said the first two series, they don't need a fifth starter because of the off days, so that they are able to go and they could bring him up after the first two series. So I wouldn't necessarily look into that. He wouldn't be there anytime soon. I think it's just they know the schedule, so they can do that.
Hold on, Dave, highlight your own excellent lesson. There's going to be a lot of that. People overreacting to the option news. Dave, you left such a great point. Just go check the schedule first.
Yeah.
Because that's not like, oh, he's demoted. That's not necessarily. I don't know who's getting the 5th spot, but that is not like some definitive he's out type of thing. You know what I mean? Like some people hear that and go, oh, you're off the draft list, and I wouldn't react so fast. Sorry.
Doc, I would love to hear one of your sleepers in this range, if you would be so kind as to talk to us.
Oh, thank you, David. I thought you never would ask.
I love hearing your opinion, Doc.
I love Braxton Garrett for where he's going this year. Somebody that has a secure rotation spot, even more now that Pablo Lopez got traded to David's beloved Minnesota Twins. He threw 124 innings across 3 levels last year. And for some reason, all the projection systems have him below that, in the 107 to like 117 range. I don't see why it would necessarily go down, considering he was on the injured list last year for about half of August and the beginning of September. But across his 88 major league innings, a 3.58 ERA, and you break that down into 17 starts. 2 of them, he had 10-plus Ks. He actually had 11 on there, and he went at least 4 innings in all of them. Gave up 5 earned twice, but other than that, kept everything relatively, in check. 87th percentile in chase rate. I think he's going to be one of those guys that he will be a little bit volatile, but I think he has a very high ceiling. And once again, in the range we're talking about, past picks 100, I want a guy that can give me double-digit strikeout upside.
Okay, I like it.
I
Let's
think
go.
you made him left out. I think the biggest thing, Doc, is he's sitting behind like the most fragile rotation that there is.
Yeah, it's honestly true.
That rotation is hanging by an absolute thread. Is Trevor Rogers the most reliable pitcher in that? Outside of Sandy, of course. But I mean, heaven, if something happened to him, forget it. They're really finished. But you cannot rely on that Miami staff whatsoever. Luzardo's hanging by a thread. Cabrera's hanging by a thread. Even Rogers was up and down a touch.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Braxton Garrett call. Also, more shameless promotion of my Twitter feed. I posted this today again. Since Alex Chamberlain posted his board back, I've been kid in a toy store. So I did some splitting stats. Second half, check this out. This is tweeted just today. Braxton Garrett propaganda incoming. Okay. Only 23 pitchers with at least 5 games started in the second half posted a 25% whiff rate, along with a sub 330 expected WOBA on contact. Now, as geeky as it sounds, that's what, notice these are the things that are part of my triple slash, because those are the descriptions that matter. I don't talk about predictive. I can't see the future. I just know what happened. Elite whiff rates and elite contact suppression. I mean, again, when we were just talking about like the list, like sometimes the list is good. Okay, let's try out the list, guys. Ohtani, Nola, McClanahan, Javier, Dylan Cease, Jesus Luzardo, Clayton Kershaw, Framber Valdez, Tristan McKenzie, Braxton Garrett, Max Fried. Sometimes that's how you find these guys. So I am all about Braxton Garrett. He is one of my favorite sixth men, let's call it, in the league. I think that's another one. I've heard you guys speak about this before, and I don't think it could be understated.
Yeah.
Draft sixth starters. They might be the best values anywhere, right? Because no one is interested in them, and they're like a guaranteed injury away. Every single sixth starter is going to get 55 innings, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a great spot, Doc. Awesome pick, man. Braxton Garrett, for sure.
And just to piggyback and give our guys at the Fantasy Baseball Beat a shout out, when they had Craig Mish on and they were talking about Mel Stottlemyre as the pitching coach and how respected he is and how he helped Sandy with his ascension, like that's something I don't think you can take for a grain of salt. Like we trash teams that have bad pitching coaches, but I feel like a lot of times we don't hype up good teams that have pitching coaches.
Miami, for sure. Is there another great point? I know I was tough on them as far as health goes. Realistically, from like a filth standpoint, Miami's got to be right up there with almost anybody. You do not want to face any of those guys. Again, you could laugh, oh, they won't make it healthy. But let's say right now you had to face that combination of pitchers. They're extremely tough. Man, they are very tough. And, Sandy does the entire team such a favor by going 7, 8, 14 innings every time out or whatever. You know what I mean? He's such a horse that kind of feeds. Unfortunately, the rest of the rotation depletes that strength. Yeah. And I think that's the determining factor for Miami. But yeah, I love Garrett. He's got to be one of like 6 or 8 or even 10 six starters that I think are going to be awesome and winning leagues this year. Yeah.
I think we need a segment on the when the season show starts. We have like all our segments. We do like sixth men and like do something like a Musketeers, like, and then just have like our top 6 men like rankings, being like these are the next guys that could step in the rotation and the guys that you should roster before an injury happens, and just like have a little fun segment. That just made me think of with you saying that, John. That's kind of I think it
Sixth
could be.
man. I like that.
I think it could be funny. I don't know. Maybe put in the comments if that's something that's cringy or you guys like that or not. One thing I did want to add here is there was a name we put in the private chat that I think I want to make sure we get to, and that's Matthew Boyd, who is also, we were talking about earlier with Kyle Bradish. I feel like Matthew Boyd's one of the other big names that's starting to shoot up draft boards. And I think another outing or two like he's been having, and he's not going to be in this range much longer. Do you guys have any thoughts? Is this a mirage for Matthew Boyd? Is this tangible changes you're seeing from him? Because he seems like he's completely changed his pitch mix and he's a different pitcher. Does anybody have any thoughts? Marty, obviously you're the Detroit Tigers homer on this show.
Right.
And you've seen the bad Matthew Boyd, you've seen the good Matthew Boyd, you've seen the ugly
He's
Matthew Boyd.
one of my guys. He's one of my guys for this.
There we
this
go.
Area.
So I knew it. So that's the perfect transition. Go ahead.
There we perfect segue. That's why you do the hosting, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Matthew Boyd, 114th SP off the board over the last 2 weeks, 485 ADP. Just 2 years ago, he had 200 strikeouts and 185 innings pitched with a mid fours ERA. In 9 innings so far in spring training, 17 strikeouts. I'm going to repeat that. 17 strikeouts and only nine innings, 2 walks and 2 earned runs, both off the home run. If you follow Matthew Boyd, he gives up the long ball a lot. But he's in Comerica, even with the fences moved in a little bit. I still think he's going to be able to get that mid fours ERA, and he's going to pitch as much as possible. We don't have to worry about his innings. The Tigers are going to roll him out there for 150, 160 innings. And we talk about his new his arsenal. He has a completely brand new changeup, and it looks great. He's keeping the hitters off balance. He's no longer throwing the fastball over for first pitch. He's trying to mix in his curve. He's trying to mix in his changeup early, and then he's been attacking hitters more than I've ever seen, just in that small sample size. So at where he's going right now, if he can get you 170 innings, that late in the draft, and he's only 30 years old. He's not a super old guy. So yeah, I like what I'm seeing so far with Boyd.
Hey, Marty, on the Tigers,
yeah,
is the offense going to give them enough runs, and is the bullpen going to be able to hold it?
Always a good question. No. What I'm looking for Boyd, let's say he's your 7th SP. If you draft well, he should be somewhere around there. You can spot start him. Yep. Pitch him against good matchups. I think the strikeouts are going to be there. When you do sustain an injury from one of your top 5 pitchers, he's somebody you can slot in there for the entire year. And I do believe there's a little bit of a ceiling that we haven't seen yet. I think that's possible. Or he sucks. You just let him go, baby.
Yep.
You got him for free.
What about Marty with you really quickly? Also, I know it's a starting pitcher episode, but staying with the Detroit theme, Alex Lange, does he have that job locked down?
He's been brutal so far. The command is not there at all. It was really there last year, but Jose Cisneros is maybe the only guy that's kind of knocking on that door right now. There's no one behind him, so that's the upside, right? It's that Alex Lange, until he's not the guy, he is the guy. But you can't see what you've seen so far against AA hitting and AAA hitting and like that. It's not breeding confidence, but I think it's going to slow down his ADP a little bit over these next 2 weeks. You might be able to get him at a little bit more of a discount because he was cooking up that board. So this is kind of slow him down a little bit, but I'm not feeling good about it.
Yeah, he's one of those guys I think you're taking a shot on if you sleep on closer and
there's just no one else there though.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. And they're not going to trade for anybody. They're not going to buy anybody. It's either him or Jose Cisneros. And
is there a guy that they have like in AAA that you could see them calling up if it's like a high end?
I think it comes from the retreads. Remember, Detroit has an entire rotation of retreads.
Yeah.
Boyd, no, it's true. Boyd, Manning, Turnbull,
Eduardo Rodriguez,
Kubel, and Casey Mize. And that doesn't even include Erod. Erod is there also. I think it might come from there. A lot of times they keep cycling injured pitchers, and sometimes the conclusion is this guy's just never going to get us 100 pitches every 5 days. We're only going to get 31 pitches every 3 or 4 days, or twice every 4 days, or whatever it is. So I think it might come from within, but I'm not to disagree with Marty. I think Lange gets first shot, and I think it's his to blow, which I think he will also. But I don't know. They're
Fair
bad.
Yeah,
enough
they've
with
never
that.
at no point has the Tigers staff ever fully committed to Lange. They said they're going to let it play out here in the spring. So I have Lange on two teams. Out of the 8 I've done so far. So I am definitely more invested than I want to be with all those walks that I'm seeing. But he's going to get the first shot if he rolls with it. He'll be there. Even if he doesn't be the main closer and they go by a committee, I could see him getting 12 to 15 saves.
Oh, I think that's a lock. No, I think that's a lock. I think you can pencil 12
where
as
he's
a floor.
going, that's worth it.
Yeah, I think you could pencil 12 as a floor. The thing I wanted to get to fast was, because I get this a lot, if I put my rankings out, my emails always blow up. People often ask me now about Matthew Boyd. Now, granted, you quoted ADP, and I commend you for quoting recent ADP. The problem is, and it's no one's fault because no one has the answer, right? ADP's, particular NFBC, which does a fantastic job because they allow you to time sort, does not account for the current drafts. Okay, so even though it's telling you the last 7 days, those are drafts that have ended in the last 7 days. There are quite a bit of slow drafts going on. So I actually think, I was thinking about this the other day, I can't quantify it. I just think some of it is partially misrepresented. Because, so I did the math because I can't count that high. Boyd's ADP, whatever you gave us, was in the 32nd round. Well, I can tell you for a fact, right, that's not the case. Okay, that's not the case. So that's what I'm getting. The question I'm getting is not even so much about, is Boyd the guy? Or is Bradish the guy? It's when I identify the guy, whoever I think it is, where do I go get him? Because the big problem has been ADP is telling me this, but even if I'm willing to jump it, I'm not getting it. That number is no good. So you kind of have to. I was listening to Sporer talk about this. He was on your show, not talking about this specifically, but I know he's been guiding listeners through the ranking process for a while, and it sounds so like Uga caveman style. Literally take the name and run it up the list until you don't want him as much anymore. So I got Boyd pretty much as far up as the other guys we were mentioning. Where like. Hayden Wesneski is now at 340. He's got to go right there, right? Because, you're kind of tossing up Wesneski. Yeah, we like him. What if he doesn't make the rotation? You can't take, almost similar to what Brad was saying before. It's very hard to take, especially on a shallow bench, a guy in AAA opposed to Matt Boyd, who might be starting opening day, right? Matt Boyd might be the opening day starter for the Tigers. It's hard to, Oh yeah, no, you're right. But even still, he's going to pitch the first series. Let's say,
yeah,
getting
absolutely.
Opportunities, yeah. I think you just kind of fit it where you need to, and not to say throw ADP out the window, but don't be looking to get cute, especially with these new pieces, right? Matthew Boyd has not been part of the equation for the entire 6 months, so the market hasn't properly digested it. It's the highly erratic ADPs. Even new kids, Jordan Walker, right? Matthew Boyd. Even I'm seeing like Brandon Donovan going flying up boards, like where it's catching people by shock because we knew the hit tool was very good. We know the environment's very good. We know he's a good hitter. But now it looks like the Cardinals are imposing that heavy pull approach on him. I was worried it might come at the sacrifice of contact. Well, now he's out here pulling home runs every day in spring training. So if Brandon Donovan is able to put together, like he has a elite plate approach, contact profile, elite 93% contact, whatever. You can't get it past him. If they turn that into pull power, listen, Tommy Edman is not a home run hitter, but they put 14 home runs on the guy because they taught him how to pull those line drives. So Brandon Donovan now has a power if they institute this. Again, remember, at this point, we're assuming things. And this goes for pitchers also, where we're kind of assuming on these guys. So I just go get him. I don't want to say I don't care. Wherever I think he fits, I go get him, and you can yell at me about ADP later.
Well, John, I'll say this with Matthew Boyd in my TGFBI league. I got him, and it finally just ended 2 days ago. I got him.
Jeez.
I got Boyd.
Really?
Dude, it was. We had really quick. We had 2 guys that were over 2 hours, and it was. God. I'm not gonna name them,
right?
But
Brutal.
They know who they are.
People have reached out to Justin Mason. People have reached out to Mason to make sure they don't rejoin. But anyway, Matthew Boyd. I got him in the 28th round.
Oh, that's great. Although I think I saw him in the. What's the opposite of reserve round during the live rounds or whatever, and during the starter rounds? See, that's where I would definitely draw the line because I think in the 23rd round. See, Marty, you kind of get it. Well, you're super sharp, but I think people fail to, they replace like, it's this, I need to get this guy. I need to get this guy. The end of that should be, I need to get this guy at a price that makes sense and without sacrificing something better. But I think people lose that, right? They lose the forest for the trees. It's you get this lock on Matt Boyd because he's the sleeper.
Well, the hype gets high.
But yeah, but right, Matt Boyd 23rd, Matt Boyd 28th, big difference.
Yeah. I wanted to get to this topic next that Brad was going to bring up because I think Boston in their rotation is definitely something that there's a lot of question marks there, and there's a lot of guys in the back end that go in this range. So, Brad, what was your question about those guys?
Yeah, so obviously we're well past the range Chris Sale is going, but there's a couple old guys still there. So a Corey Kluber and then a guy who I was using at this point of drafts last year in Pivetta. Are you guys thinking the Red Sox are dropping off so much that those aren't worth the investment at this time, or are they still worth the flyer?
Pivetta was one of my guys.
Oh man, Marty, we just like
you guys are just picking them up. So I'll go quickly with it because I feel like I've been talking more than I should.
No, you're good.
So Pivetta, great stuff. Average location, but according to Eno, his pitch plus is 103. So, there's something he's doing there. He's a workhorse. He's going to have plenty of starts. Less AL East matchups. I like that. Less AL East stadiums. And he's one of those guys that I got him in TGFBI as well. Just one round before Boyd, 27th round. I'm going to be using him as a spot starter until, I see a little bit more. But stay away from the good offenses. Stay away from the bad ballparks. But run him out there because of the innings pitched. And the Red Sox are going to play him. I think he's their second or third best starter. Like, they have to, let him roll him out there as much as possible. So I really like Pivetta for this year. But I'm going to be choosy with my starts.
Very fair. I think he kind of showed last year that he was someone you thought was breaking out, but he showed he was still inconsistent. The same Nick Pivetta.
Well, Phil Dussault, the robot, was all in on him, so I know that got people going.
It's provocative.
Yes.
Yeah, Pivetta was one who last year I got after pick 300.
Yeah, and he definitely.
Sorry, Pivetta I got last year after pick 300. Where would you be looking for him this year?
Well, I can at least. I know John was talking about that. Obviously these drafts aren't completely updated, but at least how it has it updated right now. Nick Pivetta is going at pitcher 162 at pick 518. So let's do the name game. Would you rather have Brian Bayo in the Red Sox rotation, or would you rather Nick Pivetta?
Pivetta for me.
I would have preferred Bayo if he didn't have the forearm thing, right? He's kind of held up now.
Give me Pivetta.
Yeah, you got to go with the. Yeah, you got to go with the health. I think right now you have to go with the health. Funny that I think I'm in the same city, but man, Brad, I'm digging your style because we're kind of different. There's way too much agreeing on stuff. I've been keying up more on like, I guess at this stage of the draft, I'm going for more like talent, like filthy upside, and I guess
Tyler
Tyler
McGill.
This. Yeah, well, I was thinking same city, Boston. Both Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock go late. They've both been like top 100 picks. They both have filth. Like they're both really good. Mm-hmm. And they've both been kind of wholly discarded. Boston has mismanaged so many young players lately. And this is not just some Yankee fan. I think baseball's better when Boston's good. Mm-hmm. But they've mismanaged the pitching staff at least. So it's funny. I think Brad is onto something. I think there's something there with the existing. I do, and I think Pivetta is the one to get it from. But I like the backups there. Man, Houck might even be in line to crack the opening day rotation. This guy was thought of as like a budding superstar, right? Check out the career line on Houck. So it's a little bit short of a nice season. So it's about 150 innings, 3.02 ERA, 112 WHIP. 591 OPS. Yes, please. 28% K to 8.7 walk, 13 swinging strike, 49 ground ball. You love that. 30% hard hit, half of a home run per 9. Wait, so he gets swings and misses. He suppresses contact. He keeps the ball on the ground and in the yard on a good team. Like, this should be a no-brainer. Houck, again, trying to get away from like Bradish and Wisniewski because they're so popular. I'm now into that the truffle pig. I'm on the next like wave of trees looking for the next ball because everyone have found those mushrooms. I'm like looking for new mushrooms, and I couldn't believe how long it took me to get on Tanner Houck to piggyback off Doc and Garrett before. This Boston Red Sox rotation is hanging by a freaking piece of dental floss, man. James Paxton's already hurt, right? They're already hurt. They're already down. They're already down. That Houck is into the rotation, perhaps with Whitlock already. Bayo right on the back burner. So I think the Boston rotation, like even if you were to go with Brad's method and suck up some of the existing, man, I think maybe you could even combine it with the guys behind it. I think Boston's just very undervalued the pitching staff right now.
Then you must love that I bet they're under 78.5 wins.
Man, DuPont shook me off that. Jason DuPont, I mean, of course, I like the biggest Red Sox homer in the world. He literally is the biggest Red Sox fan I've ever met. But he shook me off it with rational breakdown. I think maybe we've sold them a little bit short because of this. Like he was talking about the bullpen is way improved. The rotation, once you get peeled off that bruised layer of James Paxton and the bruised layer of, whatever filth is going on. I think those other guys are good. He tends to like the lineup additions more than I do. I thought the lineup took a huge step backwards. They're in love with, Yoshida and Casas now. I don't know.
I'm still taking the under.
Yeah, I thought so too. But I you know what? I caught a lot of flack for it and I backed away from a coward. I'm a coward.
Doc, give us another name.
So my second guy, and this is kind of a homer pick, but it's Cole Irvin, and it's going to be nothing sexy. Once again, this range of people, everybody kind of has their approach for how they want to do it, but he's going to be an innings eater, 178 and 181 the last 2 seasons. The O's don't really have much pitching depth, and I think the whole thing of getting him and Gibson was just to be innings eaters to get to that bullpen that has been really good for them the last couple seasons. They're going to play in less AL East games, so less games against the Red Sox, against the Yankees, against the Blue Jays, who always seem to kill them each year. I know great in terms of limiting base runners, walking, 93rd percentile of walk percentage. Now, if you go to his StatCast page, he is a Mr. Freeze. But I'm looking at his first half where he threw 95 innings, a 3.21 ERA, 238 batting average, and a 279 OPP. Because the thing that really kind of threw him off is if you look at September, he had a 6.75 ERA, but he got 9 wins on the A's last year. So I think there's a very real possibility with the O's that he could get 10 plus. And this is a cheap source of wins, of counting stats, maybe not the best ERA and whip, but can provide value in a couple other categories. Once again, past pick 100.
All right. I want to close this discussion out. If there's one more name that has not been said, if there's nobody else you want to add to it, fantastic. But if there's one more name that you would like to throw into this discussion for our listeners to know that this is somebody you should be looking at after SP 100, John, you first. Who would be the guy for you?
All right. I was coughing it out before, but all kidding aside, I think we got to get on Clarke Schmidt. I think the helium maybe hasn't quite started yet. I feel like a lot of this had to do with the WBC. People are just not overreacting because of all the rosters are very much split right now. And I think once that dust settles, we'll get a real price correction. So, I mean, the pathway is open for Schmidt to start, which of course, opportunity is at the fore of all this stuff. From what we saw from him last year, he was very good for them. He went 57 2/3. I got 3.12 ERA, 1.2 whip. The whip's not great, but 648 OPS, we love. 287 expected WOBA. Anything under 300 is just fantastic. 24K with a touch too much walks, but I do like the 30% CSW. That's always really important. He also forces a lot of pop-ups and has kept the ball in the yard. Maybe to that point we were speaking about before with pitch mix changes. One, the Yankees have said they're going to get him to start throwing a cutter that it's weird that I guess that he likes. It's working. But more than that, last year, what I saw that was so encouraging, they had him pull back on the sinker, which really wasn't very good pitch. So that sinker was at 23 use, 450 X-lug, 15% whiff. I mean, a 450 slug allowed and 15% whiff rate is not a good pitch. So to use it 23% of the time as almost a primary feels like a stylistic mistake. They're shifting that. Now that moved into the slider, 38% whiff, 283 X-lug, and a 41% whiff rate. Like, it's just beyond me sometimes that you could have different pitches that are so disparate. It's like one pitch is totally hittable meatball, one pitch is the purest filth no one can touch, and they're still, no. More sinker. And the Yankees now have been doing that. So it's one thing, as much I knocked them for the young kids, with the pitchers on the mound, The Yankees certainly have maximized pitch mix, getting the most out of pitchers, the most that they have. We even saw that from like Tyon and stuff. So, yeah, I think Clarke Schmidt's going to be really, really good. There's a lot of whiffs there. He's still really young, and we've seen a bit of the potential. If there's another level to go here, this could be like the Yanks 3 down the stretch.
Interesting. Clarke Schmidt's name on the rise here. That's John's guy he's sticking to here. I think, Marty, you gave a few guys. Was there anybody else that you
I'm just gonna say, do not draft Yusei Kikuchi. Just don't. I'm seeing more and more of people starting to like get back on the train because you see the strikeouts or whatever it is. He has an xERA always over 5.
Hey, bite your tongue. Anyone in my league should draft him.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyone playing against me should draft him. I can't believe people keep falling.
And you can just Venmo John directly.
Oh my! If there is all this guy needs is a shirtless hype video in black and white throwing something slow motion.
I just don't get it. But John, I wanted to ask you, this is just an overall strategy question, because with all of these pitchers, they're going to be your reserve pitchers, right? They're going to be pitchers from your bench. When you're constructing, let's say in a 15-team league, TG, FBI, or whatever it is, like a bigger league, when you're creating your team, do you use the bench to like load up on like 3 or 4 starters that might break out, or how do you use that bench? Are you looking to get a backup shortstop because you might? What do you do there?
Okay, it's probably a timing thing. So right now, Fab season is just starting, and we're 2 weeks away from first pitch. That's a lot of time. A lot of information, new information is going to happen, and there's going to be a really impactful waiver period. So I am purely shooting the moon in the reserve rounds. I do not want anybody vanilla. Like I almost drafted like Gene Segura in a reserve round. That's the opposite of what you want to do in a reserve round with 2 weeks to go. The opposite. You're much better off shooting the moon. And had you drafted Anthony Volpe in that spot a couple weeks ago, you're looking really good right now. But that's how you go after it. Give me the high strikeout guys that might make rosters, right? That could be the big payoff. And you mentioned earlier, Marty, more than once, maybe the most important part of the decision is when easy cut. Easy cut, baby. Those are tremendous decisions. So right now, I'm focusing on easy cuts. High payoff, easy cuts. Especially with closer specs and stuff like that, right? That's how you do it. When it comes to like more closer, like when I had big drafts the night before, I'll be honest, I don't want to. I really would have. I probably have no hitters on a perfect bench because I have found, especially you're mentioning deep NFBC style, at bats and plate appearances, really I feel like are at the premium. They're the hardest things to find in quality and abundance at the end, where maybe everyone should play to their strengths. I feel like I'm very good at pitching analysis. So I love a lot of the late pitching, not 400 ADP pitching, but a lot of the pitching we've talked about. Like I'll take a lot of those guys, especially when it comes to the opportunity cost of the trade-off earlier on. I have found everyone is chasing 2 starters. Everyone is chasing like a stream where if you build your starting rotation 2 or 3 arms deeper than it needs to be, at the expense of hitters that you don't want to rotate. And then you find yourself choosing rather than streaming, right? It's just you have a deeper rotation of viable starters. So for me, it's been hitting up front. I'm foregoing closing in Fab leagues until the end. I'll figure that out. I'll stream that. And again, there are guys that people just don't like. You can get Kendall Graveman at the end. Even like, let's say you want one like kind of good closer. Nobody wants Alexis Diaz. He could get 40 saves and have 95 strikeouts this year. Nobody wants him because he's a Red. Shane Green closed 31 games for the Tigers in like half a season. Crazy stuff happens. You remember, sometimes bad teams don't separate in those wins, and every win is a save situation. So you just don't try to outsmart wins and saves. That stuff doesn't matter. Take filth, take high upside, and I'd rather try and rotate viable starting pitchers. I have just found trying to find off the wire while everyone else is doing the same thing is such a fool's errand. It really is. It really is such a fool's errand. Like taking bad pitchers because they're facing bad offenses is not really a path to fantasy glory. I don't think. Right? You want strikeouts, man. You want that's to me. You could see the guys I like are all strikeouts. My drafts are all strikeout guys, and especially in Fab, give me all the Marlins. Give me like Edward Cabrera on every team because he's either going to be great or he's going to be hurt. Right? I'm not going to draft too many Tyler Andersons. I like Tyler Anderson, but I'm not going to draft too many Tyons of Tyler Anderson. Maybe 1, 2 maximum. Like Doc was saying, even a guy like Cole Irvin. Don't undersell 180 innings with a 112 whip. Don't undersell that. But he very aptly put, he doesn't expect too much. That's a final piece. You know what I mean? That's like the last piece of glue in the dam to make
Yeah.
it stick. But I want all the strikeouts, all the ceiling, because half these guys are going to get hurt or dropped anyway. So
Yeah.
I play for the top side. Yeah.
The last name, talk about Michael Wacha. I know, Brad, you were bringing him up for the Padres. I think he kind of fits the sixth men theme we were talking about, as someone who could step in and get a rotation spot, especially, Joe Musgrove obviously is going to miss some time. And like Snell's been known to be a friend of the IL. So if you need innings, I think that you can take a stab on him, if you will, especially going after pick 400. I think that's not a bad chance to take him there. We're going to close out the show. I'm going to read you some names, and I want you guys German style to say Ja or Nein if you would draft this player for your fantasy team. Okay? So let's just give me the word. Don't have to explain why. Just so our audience can get a sense if we're behind these guys or not. Roansy Contreras.
Ja.
Nein.
Yeah.
Brad?
Nein.
Oh, we were split down the middle on that one. I guess it's I know we're kind of going long, so I have a couple more names we'll throw out here. What about Aaron Savale?
Yeah. He's good. Yeah, it's good.
Friend of the show, but nine.
I remember my first beer.
9 for me.
This is fantastic.
Ja.
We haven't had a consensus one yet. Okay. What about, let's talk about
Oh, Savale's going to be good, man. He closed out strong. Be careful. He's be good.
Brandon Fat of the Diamondbacks.
9.
Oh, Fat is good.
Nine.
Yeah.
9.
Fat is good. I'm pro Fat, obviously. So yeah, Fat is good.
All right.
9
We'll
for
go a
me.
couple. What'd you say it was?
9 for me.
Oh, I want the Y's. Okay. Oh, fair. Oh.
How about Adam Wainwright? No, that's not what we do here, John. Come on.
Yeah.
That,
Oh,
Yeah,
John,
in
you
a,
gotta say-
in a
you gotta say
DC.
9.
In a DC. That's all I'm gonna say.
We already talked about.
you have to throw 82. How do you say 82?
I'm going 9. That's the Reds' bias of
Yeah, 9.
82 in German is oh my, holy moly, Zweintagedig. It literally Google it. I don't even know how you say that. Someone maybe that speaks German that watches or listens.
Ah, romance languages.
Mitch Keller.
9. But I see a spot. I see something there, but right now I don't have him anywhere, so I have to say
Why?
9. But
Why am I agreeing with Marty on everything? I literally agree with that analysis exactly.
9.
Oh, yeah. I guess 9. I guess. I don't know. I fought for it so many times, man. This time last year, I was like, look at the hype video.
I know it's
Ceiling's
crazy.
too low on the Pirates.
his stuff is good though.
Yeah.
He's got some,
I'm not
they're
falling
another-
into it.
The Mitch Keller. The Mitch Keller move is. The
They're not
Mitch Keller
developing.
move is if he pitches well enough that he gets traded and can get you wins on the back half of the year.
Yeah.
What about, we didn't talk about him a ton, David Peterson.
I'll say yeah.
I would say Ja.
Yeah, me too. I expect because the price is so cheap, although
That's a
More
light
helium.
Ja though. I like Ja.
I like Ja. I like Ja. Okay.
Do you think he gets the role? There's a bit around here. It's a hot topic of discussion here.
I think he does. He's
I
looking
think he
really
does,
good.
but he doesn't
right?
have a
You need the
long
lefty?
leash. He doesn't have
It's
a
over
long
to him, and
leash.
it's him versus McGill, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah. The thinking here is the Mets want a lefty. Peterson is the only lefty they have.
Oh well, that would make sense.
Yeah.
I
that's
mean,
why
how
think-
much is it worth the worst? I think McGill might be. Well, Peterson looked great with the slider last time out. McGill, we saw some brilliance from him, and then he fell apart.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
I think that's like, for the most part, that's. I'll throw this name out too because I brought him up earlier. I was more in on him earlier in the offseason. I've kind of started to fade away a little bit more. Kyle Muller of the A's.
9.
8, 9, 10. No way.
No.
8, 9.
There's a reason all these guys, the entire A staff is available after 400. You know, it's the truth.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that was a pretty good list of
Let
names.
me ask one. Herman
Yeah.
Marquez, but you're only gonna pitch him on the road.
9.
Nine.
Still 9. Okay. I don't know.
Why isn't he a Yankee? I'm so upset about this. He should have been a Yankee. Like
He should have been traded 3 years ago
At
for his
least.
own sake.
The Rockies is just straight up malpractice. They're just, they're the worst.
There they are.
Yeah.
On that note,
Yeah, they are.
they're getting at anything. They really are bad.
Yeah,
On that note, John, Brad, thank you so much for joining the show tonight.
To see you, man.
This is awesome as always, John. Please plug all the great work that you're doing.
Oh,
where people
thank you
can
so
find you on
much.
Twitter,
Yes.
all the good stuff.
Yes, follow me on Twitter at John Legazza, spelled the way it is down there, JohnLaghezza. I'm at The Athletic. We're coming hot and heavy, and my piece de resistance, maybe the thing I'm the most proud of maybe ever in this industry so far is I did a top 625 5x5 ranks, which doesn't sound that impressive, except I started doing detailed write-ups, and I wrote up the top 125 players, not to be like in the way only I can, but in a way maybe I might be the only person crazy enough to do this. So it's like, at this point, it's over 125 players. It's over 40,000 words. You could search by player or by position. I've got head-to-head ranks. I also have underdog ranks I'm super proud of because I took my underdog ranks. I don't know if anybody saw this. So I took them, I uploaded them, and I ran an auto draft, and it was awesome. So that's how you know that your ranks are good. I straight up ran an auto draft and didn't know I mean, you have to keep adjusting. So, and it's only $9.99, and it's good for the whole season. So, like, I'm not saying I don't want to make money on it, but I wanted to reach out to people that want more of this. You know what I mean? Like, you could charge the same NFBC players $100, and it's not going to grow the community at all. So I was hoping that, listen, for the simpler players, you could just get your cheat sheet and your ranks and try and win your league. But for the more advanced people, or people just kind of wondering, like, what the hell is going on here? You could search by a player, and every player has a fat little box. And oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous. It's injuries and pitch shape, velocity, right? All the nuance stuff, right? All the stuff that is not in the box score. And man, the feedback has been ridiculous. These things are selling like crazy. I can't believe it, man. But yeah, I think anyone.
And how do you get that, John? Where do you go?
Just follow me on Twitter. The link will take you right there. It's my pin tweet. It's on Sharpener, but the actual link is a little hard to read. But yeah, everything's streamlined through Twitter. I'm also a total shill, and I tweet about it like 40 times a day. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can't miss it. But all kidding aside, I mean, the feedback has been awesome because I think what people are beginning to appreciate about my stuff is I'm not like, this is right and do this. I oftentimes present both sides. This is what I see. There are good, there is bad, and it's up to us collectively to try and weigh these things out. And I don't know, it's just kind of taken off. It's been a lot of fun. I'm updating it basically every single day. So yeah, hop on and let me know. I love the feedback more than anything. People being like, wow, what about this? What about that? And to that, I had to move up Joey Meneses because one of my readers kind of challenged me, and he was right. Just because a guy's 29 or 30 when he hits his first 10 major league home runs doesn't mean he's bad.
I love it. Make sure you check that out, John's pin tweet, if you're interested in seeing those rankings. Those sound awesome. Brad, anything you would like to plug or to say to our audience before we sign off for the night?
Sure. Nothing in mind to plug. So obviously, if you've made it an hour, 10 minutes plus to the Triple Play podcast, you don't need me to tell you how great work these guys do. But if you're like me and you typically only listen on the podcast, jump on the YouTube and follow them live and add some comments too. Helps get your questions answered as well. And if you haven't subscribed to The Athletic yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. John does great work. All of the writers there are awesome. I joined probably 3 years ago by now, 4 years ago, when they first started doing a promo price, and I have no problem paying the full price in the year since. So great work, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Cool.
Brad, can you give us a promise that you'll come back on?
Whenever you want to have me, let me know.
Yes.
Awesome. We'll be doing that. We'll definitely be hitting you up during the season to come back on here.
Cool.
Doc, Marty, I'm thinking if anything to plug. All the triple player ball leagues are filled. Join the Discord. It's always pinned in the YouTube video. Usually once it goes live, we'll have the Discord pinned. What else am I missing? Make sure as we get ready to sign off, you guys join Underdog Fantasy and you use code TRIPLE. If you use code TRIPLE, it will get you 100% of your deposit match up to $100. And you can come play with us too. We do Underdog Best Ball drafts every Wednesday, and we put them out on the YouTube channel every Saturday. So if you want to get in on the Underdog draft with us, just DM Doc at Triple Fantasy. He will get you guys hooked up, and you can draft with us on a stream. It's a good time. We have a good time every week doing it.
Did you see Underdog does not pay me. I just happen to love it because it feeds my year-round degeneracy. But also to credit to them, in order to keep out the whales like me, for the new players, they have it's called the warm up too.
Mhm.
So it's a lower priced tournament. So it's a $3 tournament, but it also, more importantly for the new players, because this is what I get a lot of, you have all these rankings, you guys are so far ahead. This tournament is a 3 entry max. So there is no mass. The best ranking, the best algorithm doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but a lot of times underdog winners are mass entry player, right? The people are mass entry players. It's a known thing. It's what it is, you know. The $3 one, that's really cool because you really got to be strict. Listen, man, I have 80 dingers already. So, like, now I'm at the point where I'm drafting guys. I'm just, not saying I draft anybody, but, like, you know, you get a little bit looser because you don't want the same exact team. But that one is my highest recommendation for new players is to check that one out, because for $3 and doing those drafts is like, you know, doing blow on a motorcycle, jumping off a helicopter, like, or in the middle of the Grand Canyon during a hailstorm, you know, while the ball is dropping on New Year's. It's just totally, it really is. It's just total maniacism. It's like, it's the most craziest thing, man. If you love drafting, it's right up your alley.
I love it. Yeah.
And they don't pay me. You believe that? Good spokesman, right?
Underdog got to get John with that sponsorship.
I know, right? No. They couldn't afford me, dude. I spoke to them.
Oh, man. I love it. I love it. For John, for Brad, for Doc, Marty Party, I'm D. Mendy. We're going to make like a bread truck, and we're going to haul these buns. We'll catch you all next week for our